Tonight we're gonna do something a little different. It's Chick Cherry Live, surviving the holidays, and we're gonna talk about some of the things that we see our customers use around the holiday season. Um, Really, it's interesting because we see on the platform uh, a lot of revenue collected leading up to Christmas Day, and then it just kind of like our lowest week of revenue collected is that Christmas week. So it's like the highest and the lowest are right next to each other each year. And from what we see, a lot of that has to do with photo booth customers doing corporate bookings in December. Obviously, there's weeks or there's bookings throughout the week and so on. And so we just wanted to kind of share some of the things that you could set up in your account, give you guys an opportunity to share tips that you're doing, that type of thing. So I thought Matt would drive as usual. We kind of show off some features and just have a discussion. We like to keep these things pretty casual. So if you want to hop in and chat, raise your hand. You can also leave a comment. I'll monitor that as well. But these are just basically tips and tricks to help you during the busy rush, make the most money, stay organized, that type of thing. So, um, Matt, maybe you could share your screen, hop into the one of the demo accounts, and I'm looking for the chat window. There it is. Um, and again, we like to keep it casual. So if you have questions, feel free to hop in there. But again, it's about making money, staying organized, and just stressing less. Um, so I think that probably a good place to start in my mind is with flex pricing and holiday surcharges and the stuff we see our customers do. And the reason you do this, simply put, is you're going to get booked in December, and if you're offering online booking, you're sending proposals, you can configure flex pricing and check Cherry to automatically add a surcharge to a booking. So maybe it's like 25%, on top of my regular package prices, or maybe it's $150 surcharge, that type of thing. Um, yeah. So, yep.
Yeah.
Just yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so with the flex pricing, you'll find that along with a lot of other settings under the manage drop down. So if you go to manage flex pricing, you can set that up. And the way flex pricing works basically it modifies any pricing you already have in the system. So if you've got a package that you charge $500 for, you could add a surcharge or a discount to that. And with flex pricing, it'll automatically be applied and only if those certain conditions are met. So if we wanted to have a December-wide special, December 2025 pricing, it probably makes sense to do that as a percentage. And so we might do a, whatever, 10% surcharge on that. And you can also come in and limit that to certain packages as well. So, it's real common we'll see like, oh, I just want this to apply to my photo booth or to certain booths or things like that. Less common, but also sometimes useful. You can also limit it to certain add-ons or even backdrops if you want to. But probably most common is limiting it to only certain packages. And the next section you'll see is what does that surcharge apply to? And basically what that lets you do is, most commonly this is either going to be, you know, like, hey, if somebody chooses a package and then a bunch of add-ons, does that 10% surcharge apply to the full amount or just the specific package? So with this setting, you can kind of control that. And then for these purposes, for this December, we want to look for bookings that start on a certain date. So we'll go ahead and say from December 1st to December 31st. And then that'll automatically apply.
Okay.
Lots of other settings as well, but that's kind of the main one.
It,
Main thing I would, just double check, we also do support based on when something is booked. But if you're trying to do holiday pricing, you'd want to use the start time, the start date of the event.
And
Um,
as usual, chat with us anytime you have
yep.
questions on that. Flex pricing is used for a lot more than just this use case. There's a lot of different ways you can add surcharges and discounts with Check Cherry, and we think flex pricing. And one of the reasons we came up with it is that we saw customers would want to have special like this. These are my holiday packages, type stuff, and it just becomes unwieldy, and not a great solution for something like Check Cherry, where you have all your packages in one place. We do have some customers that do that, but we think the flex pricing, and putting them under maybe a corporate package group, in your packages and then adding flex pricing is absolutely the way to go. And it works really well. It's also worth noting it'll show up as a separate line item on the invoice, so the customer will know why they're getting charged more. So if they come back and book you, they're going to know the prices that they saw on your website initially, or that type of thing. But yeah, I think it's absolutely
Yeah.
something.
And kind of along these lines, another thing we see a lot of around this time of year is that people want to do like maybe like a Black Friday special or some kind of a discount. And again, you can do that one of two ways. You can make it something that automatically gets applied. Anybody that books you on, the Friday after Thanksgiving, you could come in and say, based on whatever day that is, either that specific day or that whole weekend, you could say, hey, those people get $100 discount. And that'll get applied automatically. Or you can make it more of a code that, that you give to people where they have to type it in and, manually enter it. And that can be kind of nice from, if you want to send it out via email or on social media or things like that. Sometimes those codes are nice. And again, what you can do is say, under the discount codes, based on the book date, you could set it to, the 28th and, maybe a couple other days too. So yeah, that's another thing that we see a lot this time of year.
Another thing that's popular is people will do a surcharge, which typically is going to be more than just your entire December for New Year's Eve weekend. And so New Year's Eve weekend falls on different time periods. I don't know if you want to go to the calendar picker and see kind of where that falls this year, but and if, it is important that multiple flex pricing rules can apply, so something to be aware of. But New Year's Eve, that night can be very popular. We've seen customers 3x their prices, 2x them, that type of thing. Obviously, you're probably, going to pay staff more too, I think is common. And if anybody has, anything to share on how they pay staff around the holidays, I'd be curious to know how that goes. What you guys are doing, but that's a great way to still maintain your profitability, take care of your people, and get those bookings.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then I suppose also worth noting, not everybody wants to work New Year's Eve, Matt.
Mhm.
So we also
Yeah.
see that. And so another thing that's important to know is you can set blockout dates in CheckCheck.
Mhm.
And so you can basically say, hey, we're not going to take any bookings during a certain period. You can block off all of your availability, basically. And so that can be very helpful. Yep, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so if you go to the calendar, that's the easiest place I think to create the blackout dates. And go to sales calendar, click add new, and add a blockout date. And so once you select that, that can just be a simple date if you want. If you're going to be out of town traveling for Thanksgiving, I don't even know when Thanksgiving is this month, but you can put in those dates to block it off, and you can make that all day or just part of the day if you need to. And you can say, travel. This reason is just for you. This won't show up to the clients or anything like that. And then you can also block out just certain packages. Maybe you have staff that can handle photo booth, but for other things, for weddings or for, you probably wouldn't be doing a wedding then, but for certain services you might not want to take. So you can, by default, block out everything, but you can also just block out certain things if you prefer.
Yeah. And I think, another thing that can happen in the holidays is you'll get more last minute bookings. And so, a couple of things to think about. One is there are some settings if you're offering online booking as to how soon you're willing to offer, how much lead time you need. So, just something to be aware of. And then also, you can surcharge for last minute bookings as well. So, those are two options, to go into, I think, in
Yeah.
terms of
Another thing that comes up a lot with, this time of year is, obviously you might be out of town or you might be traveling, you might not want to take bookings. You can also, that's going to come up a lot with your staff as well. And so your staff have the ability within the app, within their account to set days off. You can even make it so
Yeah.
that they have to, basically submit that and you can approve it. But within the calendar, you can toggle on and off all of your staff off days. And, a lot of times staff don't go through the app or they, maybe they just send you a text or things like that. You can also record that yourself so that you have, just enter the staff member and the dates and reasons to block them off as well. So it makes it really easy to see who's available, who's not, and make sure that you're able to, you have sufficient availability to cover your different days.
Yeah. And I suppose just for, if anybody's new, just showing them how you assign a staff member might be
Yeah.
helpful. If anybody's new to Check Cherry, um,
Yeah,
and
so if we
assign
go
them.
to, any bookings that come in, when somebody comes in through the online booking, they accept a proposal, they're going to have a booking with you, and you can see all of your bookings, lots of places, but under sales bookings. And if we go to one of these bookings, we're going to have a section called staff here. And so if I click assign staff, I can see who's available, scroll through. If they're unavailable, it'll show it. So I can see that right there and assign them. I can even give them a role if needed. And when I click that assign button, by default, unless you've set something else up, by default, they're going to get an email letting them know that they've been assigned to that event. So that's going to have the details. And then if they click through on the link, that's going to, depending on what you give them access to, they'll be able to see things like the date, the time, um, package, all that type of stuff, where to be, and things like that. So,
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And so maybe just touching on those availability settings,
yeah.
because there will be more bookings. So you want to just double check your availability settings so that you're not overbooked. And so that'll be helpful too.
Yeah, so under manage business settings and availability, that's where you can come to set your availability settings. And so, if you're a real small operation, that can just be as simple as saying, hey, business wide, we can only take one booking at a time. And when we say one at a time, that could mean, one per day, or you could, maybe stack them if one's in the morning and one's in the evening. Um, you could also bump that up to two. Maybe you've got two booths and you think you can be in two, handle two events a day. Or you can take that out and not have a limit at all. And then if you scroll down to your packages, you can come in and set rules based on that as well. So, if you have one 360 booth and two of some other booth, you can set those limits as well. And basically, the way availability in Check Cherry works is that we'll go through all of the different rules and see if there's anything that prevents somebody from booking you. So, if you've got a business-wide rule of one, you don't need to come through and set one on every single package. It's kind of there's no way for anybody to book more than one, so it doesn't, so it's pretty simple. But it also wouldn't hurt anything if you did.
Now,
Also, oh, go ahead. Yeah, and
no,
then I
no,
was
no.
also going to point out the lead time. So this lead time setting is important too. If you set this to none, somebody can book you for, 30 minutes from now, and that's probably not
Not what
feasible
you
for
want
people.
in
Yeah,
most industries.
right. So typically we'll see that, at least a day. Some people like to push it out a week, some people push it out further. But, generally you'll want to set that at least a day or,
If It's worth noting if you're offering online booking and you have that setting and they're within the time frame, you'll still get a lead, right? So you'll still see things. And so another thing that we'll see is people will get leads and then they'll find maybe somebody else to handle the booking that's outside of their organization, kind of a white label, so to speak. And maybe it's worth showing them on a proposal how you can kind of override the availability settings to say, no, 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 I actually do want to do this, even though I'm over my caps. I have somebody that's going to do it. It's probably worth mentioning that too.
Yeah. So say somebody calls you up, they're like, hey, I've got, I need a 360 booth. Let's see here. Do got weird names on this one. I need a booth, for like tomorrow. Um, if you click this reserve date checkbox when you're creating the proposal, what that's going to do is that's going to hold the date for them. And so we'll basically, we'll prevent that from being, basically that kind of overrides your availability settings. After you've created a proposal, you can also change that as well. So, you know, with this proposal, this one says proposal date reserved. And again, that just means that I'm holding this date for them. I'm not going to let, if even if somebody else comes in and books, it's not going to make it so that this is unavailable. You can also treat your proposals as date open. And with date open, it's kind of more like, a little more like online booking where if, maybe you send them that proposal, the day was available, and then somebody else comes in and books you, if that causes it to become unavailable, we're not going to let them book. So it's worth kind of considering like, do you want to, in general, I would say most people typically use one or the other. And so it's kind of worth considering. Like, do you generally, when you send a proposal, are you holding that date for them, or are you kind of treating it as first come, first serve? The other thing when you create a proposal, uh, we have this proposal valid through setting. And this is a nice way to make proposals expire. So, it's great if you want to hold a proposal for somebody, but you probably don't want to hold that for them for 6 months. So setting a proposal expiration is real helpful for that. And you can set a default of, say, 7 days out. You can say, hey, anything, for all of my proposals, I want to default something. That's why this is currently pre-filling. But you can also override that as well. If they're like, hey, I'll get back to you by Friday, maybe you set that expiration on Saturday so that they don't get over, or that,
Right.
you're not holding that forever, especially this time of the year. So
I like it. And so yeah, we covered blackout dates, time off. Yeah, and I think, again, I just would recommend not having separate holiday packages. It's going to keep your reporting cleaner and simpler, and using the flex pricing. Um, I think that's really the way to go in terms of being able to just manage the business, the reporting, and also maximize the revenue. You can always include certain things, to the packages after the fact, all that stuff. It's yeah. And so let's
kind
see
of
here.
define that a little bit. So under managed packages, sometimes we do see people set up, they have their kind of their normal packages, their basic, classic, and premium. And sometimes people will have just a holiday package with that special pricing. And you can do it. But as Jed mentioned, kind of the disadvantage by having a separate package or separate pricing like that, when you kind of look at your stats of how many premium packages did I book all year, kind of gets
Right.
thrown off because you've got something else there that doesn't fit that pattern. So
And then, yeah, and again, the bookings, I mean, we see just tons in the photo booth world, just tons of bookings in December. So, always makes me happy, to see that. Probably not worth discounting a lot. Great to keep earning and so on. Does anybody have any questions or comments about how their holiday bookings are looking? Does it, are you happy with the holiday so far? Um,
I can hop over. One thing I can kind of show off is just kind of what the numbers do look like throughout the year. So we've got these internal stats that we keep of, when do bookings happen, and then when is revenue collected. And the revenue collected is going to be a little smoother because, somebody's booking you maybe a month out, maybe a couple months out. They're going to pay that deposit, and then they're going to come in and pay the revenue, the rest of it at the end. But the bookings happening is going to gets a little bit more spiky, and so you can kind of see, so far what we're seeing, this year is up over last year in terms, of bookings happening. But the pattern is pretty much the same from year to year, depending on when holidays fall and things like that. And this is the big spike last year, December 9th to 15th. I'm not sure which weekend that'll correspond to this year, but the spike is just, it's huge. It's not much in, the first week, or that last week in November. Big spike here, goes even higher. drops a little bit. And then the slowest week of the year is the week after. So we generally see the busiest to the slowest, happen within a week or two of each other.
Yeah. Love it.
And of course, with that, we'll see the bookings come in. People are booking out a ways before that though. So,
Yeah.
all those bookings that are going to happen in December, they're getting booked now. So now's the time to be marketing if, make sure you're out there. Any specials you have, have your pricing in order, that's all coming through now. So
Right. Love it.